Welcome to Perspectives from the Top. Today I am interviewing somebody who is extremely well known in the global automotive industry, someone who started as an apprentice on the shop floor, worked with Austin Rover, then moved on to Nissan, became Chief Planning Officer at Nissan, and then through the achievements there has been given the accolade of the third most influential marketer in the world, not just in the automotive industry. Who was given the accolade of elevating marketing to a science. Then moved to Aston Martin in 2014, the iconic British car brand. And this morning, a great pleasure to be interviewing Dr. Andy Palmer, Chief Executive of Aston Martin.
Good morning.
Morning. Aston Martin, Nissan to Aston Martin. Some people say probably you've taken on one of the greatest challenges in the automotive world. Why?
Well, I hope you're right, because that's one of the inspirations for doing it.
Yeah.
There's a sentimental reason there as well, of course, because it's really the last of the independent British car companies, and I was fortunate enough to start my career in British Leyland, as was, which at the time was the biggest car company in the world.
Yes.
And its demise is something that we should worry about. Aston is pretty much what's left of the British car company. Everything else is basically owned by foreign conglomerates. And part of my irrational reason for coming was basically to make sure and preserve what's left and hopefully pass it on healthy to the next generation. That's the irrational reason. The rational reason is, of course, number one, I've at one moment or other done most jobs in the auto industry. When I was in engineering, I've pretty much had responsibility for engineering every single part on a car.
You're right.
As I moved, 15 years ago to Japan, I had the opportunity to move different functions. So I've done engineering, I've done marketing, I've done sales, I've done planning, etc., etc., etc. And I've also had the opportunity to work on the entry cars, the mass production cars, the premium cars, and the light commercial vehicles, but I've not worked on luxury cars. And so the opportunity to come and bring basically the rational and irrational together and demonstrate the ability to turn around a company which hasn't been terribly successful on a balance sheet for its entire life, over 100 years,
indeed.
But is remarkably strong on a brand, was a time of my life where it was, why wouldn't I do this? This is a great opportunity to make it happen. With, as I said, the emotional attachment to it of it's a great British brand, and I went to school 5 miles away from here.
So to some degree you've come back home.
Yes.
Which is always good at the as you develop your career. Therefore, to some degree, you're coming here with the knowledge that you had at Nissan, which Japanese, and therefore the concept there is ultra lean. The concept here is bespoke. So it's the art of combining the two.
Yeah, and they're capable of being combined. In fact, if you look out in the factory here, I would describe the manufacturing system as beyond lean.
Yep.
Because if you go back to our teachings of manufacturing, it was always job batch flow.
Yep.
And one can argue what kind of manufacturing we do, but the reality is that we do the hand work on a flow line.
Yes.
Now, that as you got more and more derivatives and more platforms onto a flow line, the Japanese system was then coined as lean. And the leanest line that I ever saw in Japan was the Nissan Shatai line, which I think was working on 7 different platforms at any one moment. Incredible. I mean, in the sense of you couldn't call that flow, but it's lean. Here we have a line that works on at least 10 different platform types, but more importantly, not one single car is the same.
Yes.
So therefore, what you're doing is you're working on a job by job by job, but you're working in the context of a flow line, and I would call that beyond lean. No doubt at some moments or other some academic will give it a proper title, but I like the beyond lean, and that's one of the things I think that Japanese production methodology and what now becomes global methodology is equally relevant in this bespoke atmosphere as it is on a mass production line in any factory around the world.
Interesting. So that's the process element, but then flipping over to the people element, what's the challenge you've had here in terms of the mindset, the culture, in terms of moving that forward to the next century?
There's all sorts, and probably the biggest challenge I've had actually is around mindsets.
Yeah.
Perhaps living in Japan for 13 years, you get used to a certain mindset. When you come back to the UK, of course, you have something that's almost diametrically opposite.
Yeah, sure.
You've got one, if we caricature the Japanese, then very focused on detail. If you caricature the Brits, we're very good on strategy and concept. And one can argue that as you go in both directions, it doesn't always match, but it can, and it has to. And
well, there's a logical meeting point in the middle.
There is, but actually you need a bit of both. You do need
sure.
a good concept. A second century plan is very conceptual. It shows you where to go. But what I then need is a daily execution,
sure.
which is really down in the detail, and that's why I use the Hoshin-Kanri technique to connect. So there's a direct connection between concept and detail. One of the big success factors, I think, of any company, whether it's in Eastern culture or Western culture, is creating a team atmosphere.
Yep.
Somehow or other, generally speaking, in Japan, it's more cohesive as a team, I think, because of the society and the numbers of people, for example, that live in Tokyo. We tend in the UK to be a little bit more individualistic. And one of the key factors has been building a team that wants to play together and has shared goals. We're seeing success, but it's probably been my single biggest challenge, and it is one of the 6 pillars of the Hoshin-Kanri.
Yeah, certainly. My perspective of working around the world is absolutely that within the Asian sort of Far East culture, there is an acceptance on the part of individuals that they are there to serve the team much more than there is in UK and US, where it's, well, the team needs to meet my needs for me to contribute to the team.
Yes, indeed. And that's the caricature that one normally sees. Of course, if you're in the East, they may be working as a team, but they don't know where the goal is.
Yeah.
If you're in the West, at least you know where the goal is, even if you're trying to get something personal out of it. And you're right, it's a question of trying to harness those two diametrically opposed sometimes characteristics. But if you can inspire people in the team that they know that they're going to grow in this organization as a result of working on the transformation, even if it's as simple as, you know, if I'm here 6 years and Aston achieves this groundbreaking turnaround, which is going to be in all the textbooks all over the world as a case study, and I'm a part of that team, then it's going to be good for me. So you can appeal to that rather personal stuff. But you have to make the connection as a leader. You have to demonstrate. You have to grab that emotional attachment to the rational execution of the plan.
Yeah, and again, we've come back to that emotional thing, and certainly if you look at a significant amount of the data, you know, one of the reasons that in particular talent leaves organisations is because they do not perceive a clear career path.
Right.
They are not given the big picture. And therefore they move on.
Well, here when we talk about the talent, we talk about coming to Aston Martin to do the best job of your career. Yeah. So we acknowledge that lots of people move around in their careers. I'm here because I've moved 4 times. Some people will move. But if they can, you know, when they're 65 years old and they're looking back over their career, if they can say, those 5 years that I spent at Aston Martin were the best years, I achieved something, I was a part of the DB11 or the Zagato or whatever, that for me is key. And if you do that, if you can do that, then for a lot of people, that's a good reason to stay your entire career.
Absolutely. One of the things we discussed earlier was, you know, talking about visibility, And the fact that you, I believe, compared to a lot of chief executives, spend more time out of your office being visible to clients, the market, and above all to employees, that must be something that's been with you since you were out there yourself.
I started.
Yes.
I started there, so perhaps it's also a fact that I feel most comfortable when I'm on a production line, looking at a problem and understanding a problem, or I'm at a dealership understanding the interaction of the customer with us. So perhaps my weakness is I don't spend enough time in the offices upstairs, but I feel most comfortable there. And at a moment where you're trying to inspire a huge change and working cultural revolution, I think you have to do that virally. The viral is much more powerful than the corporate video.
Yes. Yes, because if we go back to that emotion point, the corporate video is not emotional. It's not building trust. It's just a video.
Indeed.
It's not the same as talking to a human being. And I think linked to that, I mean, this issue about the emotion and how that feeds forward, do you think that essentially, because of what you do, because this is as much a work of art as a work of engineering, it is essentially emotional anyway?
I think cars by their nature are more emotional than rational.
Right.
And it's certainly when you get into the luxury business. I mean, ultimately, you look at this beautiful Zagato next to me, it's £500,000.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, it performs the same task as a Fiesta.
Yep.
For £10,000.
Yes.
So the rational side of the brain is, you know, if I only want a commodity to go from A to B, there are much better types of vehicles for doing that in. But the reason for buying this car transcends, and I think in general, the reason for buying cars transcends the rational. Otherwise, we'd all be rolling around in Fiestas. This is a highly emotional purchase because it's making a statement about me, my life, my career, my lifestyle, my understanding of art and culture, and it basically is a you know, a poster for me.
Yep.
I've reached a point in my life where I've matured and I've understood the good things in life. So it's a highly emotional purchase, and you know, then you're in that segment and you're competing with the Ferraris of the world or the Rolls Royces of the world. You need to find your particular niche. You know, Ferrari is all about performance. Rolls Royce is all about comfort. We're all about beauty and automotive art. That's our raison d'etre.
And the interesting thing, I think, though, is that you know, you say that inspires, hopefully, the customers or clients to buy, but I believe that also must inspire your employees as well.
Absolutely. Look, where we're sitting here, we're perhaps 100 metres from Jaguar Land Rover's engineering centre.
Yeah.
Believe me, they pay more than we do. Everybody could trape next door and get a pay rise, but they don't. In fact, in many cases, they come the other way, and they come for a different reason.
Exactly.
In this case, it's because I guess they all want to have on their CV or in their soul the fact that they contributed to the creation of something beautiful in their industry.
So what's you have this plan, 7 cars, 7 years.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's called the second century plan because we're in our second century, but it's basically a 7-year plan, 6 years to go, and it goes through 3 acts. Basically, the sustainability and survivability, which we're coming towards the end of now.
Right.
And that was basically, we didn't have anything in the pipeline. The second stage, which is core building, which is our sports car line.
Yep.
And the third, which is portfolio expansion and moving ourselves from being a pure automotive company to a luxury company.
Okay.
That strategy is delivered through 6 pillars. And within that 6th pillar, the first pillar is about creating beautiful products.
Yep.
And the beautiful products fundamentally put tempo into the company. And the tempo is basically, as you said, 7 cars. So you've got DB9 replacement, DB11. You've got the Vantage replacement. You've got the Vanquish replacement. Then you've got an SUV, which puts us into a new segment for this company, creates beautiful luxury crossovers. Then you've got a super sports car. Then you've got Lagonda 1 and Lagonda 2. 7 cars, 1 every year, each car having a 7-year life. Copy, repeat, copy, repeat, copy, repeat. Now, because you've got a continuum of working capital, you don't get into the historical problem of Aston where we'd have an investor come in, buy 1 car, we'd spend the money, launch it, and then we wouldn't have anything to follow up. So as you go through the life curve, volume goes down, profit goes down, and you never have enough cash to pay the next one. No, what we did, and fundamental to the plan, was we raised enough capital to take to pay for the first 4 cars of that 7-year plan, knowing that that creates enough cash for the remaining 3 cars, and that therefore allows you to copy, repeat, copy, repeat, copy, repeat.
So you've effectively created sustainability in the model that wasn't there. So going back to the core point, it's the sort of knowledge from Nissan about having a sustainable, top quality, lean process, but then combining that with the inspiration of an iconic artistic brand.
No, you're absolutely right. And you know, if I talk about other pillars within within the strategy, because that just gives you a sustainable motor car company. But obviously, to be in luxury, the quality needs to be perfect. So one of the pillars is all about quality. Another pillar is all about the processes, ensuring that what you do creates those cars and creates the atmosphere. Another one is about the brand and sales, making sure that you recreate the luxury image, not just in the cars themselves, but also the way that you interact with your customers. One other pillar is about passionate people. It's about nurturing the talent to allow that to happen. The last pillar is about the funding and the finance of the business that allows it to support the dream. Most important, though, is when you combine that all together, you go from being a sustainable car company to being a sustainable luxury company, and you become the Hermes of the automobiles.
And therefore, the iconic brand, hopefully, from your perspective, is looking forward to another successful 100 years.
That's exactly, it's all in the title, the Second Century Plan.
Excellent, Andy. Thank you very much indeed.
It's my great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.